welcome back to Well, That's Interesting, the What in God's Name Are You Talking About edition. Today is episode 273. Liquid nitrogen infused cocktail popped a man's stomach like a balloon, and diseased baby ants ask their nestmates to poison them. My friends, if it feels like there's a lot going on in the title of today's show, you are not wrong. We are back on my favorite street, that being Old Medical Oddities Lane, and we just stopped in front of one of my favorite places. An establishment that serves up equally delicious and downright deadly liquids, and it's open for business for the next 30 minutes. In the first half of the show, grab a passport and your favorite muff. We are heading back in time to 2025 and to Mother Russia within a self-described culinary studio, hired out for an indulgent holiday office party. With such a laissez-faire budget, employees found themselves inebriated and dazzled by a celebrity chef. The name of the studio is a playful take on the world's most disappointing show, Game of Thrones. What's called Game of Tables is something of a magic act meets tasting menu that at the time included, quote, a Cairo show and prepared spectacular cocktails with liquid nitrogen, end quote, from Baza, a Russian-language online publication. Well, needless to say, the night ended in spectacular fashion, one that more than makes up for the actual series' final moments. We will be attending this party and bearing witness to a 38-year-old man who was offered a drink that would end up splitting a part of him in half. We will have ourselves a crash course on liquid nitrogen, be in awe of its facts and uses, and of course, its dangers when not handled properly, as noted in the medical case we will be ripping into. We will run through our patient's symptoms and stand by as physicians perform a certain test to determine his popped status. And finally, we will learn what the fuck they did to save his life. Yeah, just as you thought, this is a lot. But I have great news. There's more. To top off this story like the smoky plume atop a liquid nitrogen-infused cocktail, we will watch actual video of him being served and of him shooting it back. Yeah. Someone was recording on their phone. You won't believe how quickly everything unravels. I'm talking seconds. But even more good news, for real this time. I know this sounds hard to believe, but the story ends well. I promise. Then after the break, girl, we have been covered in ant news lately, and it looks as though it's not going to stop anytime soon. Back in November, during episode 257, how thumbnails helped rodents spread over the world, and these queen ants produced two different species, an absolute first, we were shocked, amazed, and completely dumbfounded by the Iberian harvester ant, whose queens not only produce her own species, but they can actually clone ants of another species. I will say that again, they lay eggs that hatch completely different ants. As far as we know, no other creature can do such a thing. If you haven't had a listen, please, dear God, do so. This is not a case of parasitism. She does this for survival. Then, just a few weeks ago in January, during episode 265, new species of pterosaur discovered, hidden inside fossilized puke, and imposter queens trick worker ants into killing their own mother, we learned a new word, regurgitolite. It's gross. But we also learned about Lasius orientalis, one of two species of ant that is truly diabolical. Not to give everything away here, but the queens of this species Tom Cruise their way into a host colony to poison the rightful queen. Not to kill the queen herself, oh no, but to force the thousands of worker ants to do so by tearing her apart. Today's discovery is somewhere in between. Researchers of the Kremer Group at the Institute of Science and Technology Austria have documented a behavior that once again proves these little fuckers are operating on a completely different level. Terminally ill worker ant pupa actively emit a chemical that's basically a text containing one hell of a message that goes a little something like this. For the sake of the colony, kill me. Yeah. You heard that right. Baby ants, infected with a contagious lethal pathogen, tell their older sisters to destroy them before the disease can spread. We will meet the team, hot for what's called social immunity, and we will bite into their experiment, which proves that this communication isn't a result of the disease or a faulty immune system. It's precise, targeted, and perhaps even altruistic. In the meantime, hi, I'm Jill Chacha, and if this is your first time listening, welcome to the flock, my courageous business goose. To begin, I'm going to ask you to slap on your sexiest lab coat, a pair of safety goggles, and the hottest elbow-length cryogenic gloves you can find, because we're about to dive into liquid nitrogen. Well, not literally, of course, as that would be quite the mistake, as we shall see in a minute. What I mean is that we're going to have ourselves a quick lesson. Nitrogen, or N2, naturally exists in the form of gas, and boy howdy, you're swimming in it right the fuck now. According to USDA.gov, nitrogen makes up a whopping 78% of the atmosphere. And like every Sagittarius you know, it loves to party with other molecules thanks to it being held together by exceptionally weak bonds, making it both social and flaky. Nitrogen molecules are held together by what's called van der Waals forces, meaning these forces don't require much energy to break apart. So when heated to very high temperatures, for example, they combine with some of the more active metals, such as lithium and magnesium, to form nitrides. They also fuck with oxygen to form oxides of nitrogen, and when combined with hydrogen and other friends, will form ammonia. Now, that's at high temperatures, and that's all fascinating, but it's when we head in the opposite direction is when things get really interesting. First, you should know that nitrogen, naturally occurring in the form of gas, will always try to get itself back into that form if you try and change it. It knows itself, and that's admirable. According to AngelusMedical.com, nitrogen's weak intermolecular forces mean its boiling point is much lower than most substances. So much so, whatever low number you're thinking right now, it's lower than that. Nitrogen boils at negative 196 degrees Celsius or negative 321 degrees Fahrenheit. So that is why, in the room you're in right now, you don't see it. It's in its natural state, a gas. Room temperature is just too fucking hot for nitrogen molecules. It makes them move around in a frenzied state. So to turn nitrogen into another form where its molecules are moving slowly, like a liquid, molecules literally need to chill the fuck out. The environment needs to get damn cold and remain damn cold. The star of our show, liquid nitrogen, is created through a wacky process called fractional distillation of liquid air. Which means, in just 6 not-so-easy steps, we can bully nitrogen into a different state. All you gotta do is 1, remove impurities from the air, like dust, water vapor, and carbon dioxide, so what you're left with is the pure good stuff, atmospheric molecules only. Number 2, we're gonna compress that clean air to increase the pressure significantly. 3, we're gonna cool that compressed air. 4, we're going to take it even farther by making room to allow the air to expand. This cools it down even more so. 5, as the temperature drops, please sit back, relax, and watch as the different gases in the air separate. But don't get too comfortable. Being that nitrogen has a lower boiling point than the other gases, it pops out first. Now isolated, we can move to step 6. Ramping down the temperature to negative 196 Celsius or negative 321 degrees Fahrenheit, whereupon the nitrogen gas condenses into a clear, colorless liquid. And that's it. Voila, you have your liquid nitrogen. But again, don't get too comfortable and don't celebrate so soon. Like I mentioned before, in this state, it's super pissed. Its weak bonds are desperately screaming for that frenzied freedom, like a Sagittarius. Any degree higher than negative 321 degrees Fahrenheit, it rapidly evaporates back into a gas, creating the dramatic fog-like wispy clouds that we associate with it. To keep it as a liquid, you need a nesting doll of a container called a Dewar flask, which sounds pocket-sized, but it's a heavy son of a bitch that looks like a helium tank and is actually a bottle within a bottle, with a vacuum in between. This prevents heat and the outside world from reaching the liquid nitrogen. Which leads us to the question we're all here for. Other than those fog-like wispy clouds, what are some of the things that happen when liquid nitrogen interacts with the outside world? Well, before we get into it, everything I'm about to say, I'd like you to put a pointy pin in it because most of it comes back to haunt us in the worst way. Let's get into it. Fun fact number 1. Nitrogen gas may have weak bonds, but girl, it is bossy. Once returning to its gassy form, nitrogen can displace or push oxygen out of a space. Fun fact number 2. Not only does it push oxygen out, but it does this at incredible speeds comparable with that of an explosion. Fun fact number 3. And brace yourself for this. This is the fact I want you to think about as our soon-to-be patient takes his boozy shot, okay? Okay. Not only does it expand in the blink of an eye, but the expansion is enormous. 1 cubic foot of liquid nitrogen expands to 696 cubic feet of 100% nitrogen gas at a mere 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So, if you confine all 3 facts into a small physical area, say that of an adult stomach, what do you think would happen? Yeah, your reaction is correct. Now please, join me, will you, in Moscow, December of 2025, within the walls of Igor Stolov, a culinary studio whose name roughly translates from Russian to Game of Tables. According to their website, igor-stolov.com, this place is more than just a mere kitchen where participants can get hands-on with food. Their goal is to, quote, transform a mundane cooking experience into a spectacular show, to captivate every guest, infuse them with positive energy, and reveal all the secrets of a great kitchen, end quote. Let's just say this evening, during a corporate shindig celebrating the new year early, Igor Stolov overachieved. Hosted by Chef Vasily, the night's menu was focused around one particular ingredient thanks to its flashy and mysterious appearance. You guessed it, liquid nitrogen. If you drop whatever smoky substance you're holding right now and pick up your phone to tap on today's post over at the old socials, you'll see photos of Chef Vasily cutting into a carrot, and another photo of the Dewar flask used at the party. And we have these photos thanks to an employee who, before what was to happen happened, wanted to keep these memories alive. And along with these photos was a video. But I'm not going to play that just yet. What I'm going to do first is read a brief, direct news report over at Baza, a Russian-language online publication, as to what happened when the night entered its imbibing phase. And then, my comrades, we will get into it. Translated from the site, quote, a man's stomach ruptured after he drank a cocktail containing liquid nitrogen at a corporate party. In Moscow, the company held its pre-New Year's celebration at the Game of Tables culinary studio. Chef Vasily decided to surprise the guests with a Cairo show and prepared spectacular cocktails with liquid nitrogen. According to the technology used, the substance is used for instant freezing of ingredients, and the drink can only be consumed after the nitrogen has completely evaporated. However, the chef did not warn the audience about this. And moreover, he offered one of the participants to drink the cocktail immediately, which 38-year-old Sergei did. The footage shows the man suddenly feeling unwell and clutching his stomach. At that moment, his stomach literally ruptured. According to Baza, Sergei was hospitalized in intensive care and underwent surgery to repair the organ. He is now conscious, end quote. Well, although this article is only 6 sentences, a lot happens. And I bet you have questions, like, what do you mean the chef didn't wait until the nitrogen boiled off? And, oh my God, what do you mean we have footage? And how the fuck did they put him back together? I can't believe he survived. If these were some of your questions, great questions, Business Goose. Let's start with the footage. This may be hard to believe, but everything I read in that article, sans the operation, all took place within 15 seconds. That's it, 15 seconds. Chef Vasily pours nitrogen into a cup. A white cloud immediately swirls above it. The cup is offered to the nearest person, which just so happens to be Sergei. Sergei accepts the cup, cheers to his fellow colleagues, and downs the cocktail. Smoke plumes from his nostrils as it enters his mouth. He swallows and instantly looks as though he's about to vomit, clutching his stomach and doubling over. With every one of these details, a wave of innocent laughter can be heard from the crowd. So let's have a listen, shall we? And if your hands aren't full of some expanding gas, feel free to head on over to our socials and today's post for screenshots of the video taken of Sergei's bust. So, okay, listen closely. From the December 24, 2025 Baza article, the video. My friends, unbeknownst to the crowd, during their loudest and last bout of laughter, Sergei was in dire condition. His stomach had ruptured. Now, I nearly found myself in dire straits because despite all the digging into his fate, I could not find a specific case study from the physicians who put Sergei back together again. In my search, I can only find scattered news stories from outlets like The Mirror and Metro, who reported, quote, doctors confirmed Sergei experienced a rapid expansion of gas inside his body after the liquid nitrogen vaporized, creating extreme internal pressure, and that, quote, Sergei was conscious and recovering following surgery, although his condition remained serious, end quote. So, are we to leave it at that? Of course not. Girl, I have great news. We may not know exactly what transpired in that Moscow emergency room, but I have an idea. And I have an idea because I just happened to discover that a few months prior, the same thing happened to a 34-year-old man in Mexico. And boy howdy, the physicians there were all about spilling the liquid nitrogen-laced tea. According to their report, titled Gastric Perforation After Liquid Nitrogen Cocktail Ingestion, the patient was admitted to an emergency department experiencing not only abdominal pain, but an abnormally fast heartbeat of 124 beats per minute, compared with the typical resting heart rate of 60 to 100. He was also breathing faster than normal and had low blood pressure. His body temperature plummeted to 95.7 degrees Fahrenheit. In sum, his heart was straining to keep warm blood flowing to his organs because his own cocktail was freezing him from the inside. Now, I don't believe any member of the flock would stick their naked hand in liquid nitrogen, but if a certain friend of yours did, and we all have that one, they would first experience the Leidenfrost effect. Basically, within the first few seconds of contact, a thin vapor layer forms between the liquid and their skin, providing a momentary cushion and reducing direct contact. If contact is maintained after the cushion disappears, liquid nitrogen can cause frostbite. And untreated, that leaves the exposed area to nerve damage and even tissue death. So, despite what we see in sci-fi shows, liquid nitrogen doesn't freeze body parts instantly. It's actually a slower, more painful experience. This is what was happening to our patient in Mexico, leaving medical staff scrambling to perform a CT scan of his abdomen. Again, if you drop whatever abdomen you're holding right now and swipe past photos of a traumatized Sergei, you'll see this CT scan right the fuck now. In that scan, you'll see 2 yellow arrows. What they're pointing at is pneumoperitoneum, a layer of trapped nitrogen gas just above the stomach and below the lungs. This confirmed that the gas had ruptured the man's stomach and collected above it. So, with this information, what could be done? I'm so glad you asked. Quote, the doctors made a small keyhole incision in the patient's abdomen that released the trapped nitrogen gas. They then inserted a laparoscope, a thin tube with a camera, through the keyhole and into the stomach to find and repair the perforation. Finally, they sutured and sealed the 1.2-inch wide or 3-centimeter wide hole using a piece of fatty tissue from elsewhere in the man's abdomen. The patient made a quick recovery and was discharged 3 days later, after he demonstrated he could tolerate a liquid diet. End quote, from Kamal Nahas of Life Science. Well, there you have it. The old patch and sew. This patient also eventually made a recovery. Yay! And since we're at it, let's continue on the high notes, shall we? Okay, good. Fun fact number 4 about liquid nitrogen. Quote, some people think it is super cool to put liquid nitrogen into a beverage and watch the fog that comes out of the drinks so you could take a pic for your social media. But not everyone is aware of the risks that come with drinking a drink made with liquid nitrogen, end quote, said ER doctor and toxicologist Dr. Josh Treybeck, explained via Twitter. Continuing the quote, imbibers are supposed to wait for the smoke to completely evaporate before drinking. End quote. So, please tell your other friend, the bartender one. Fun fact number 5. This shit is actually great for some medical treatments. Doctors use it to freeze and remove unhealthy cells, like warts or cancerous tissue, in a process called cryotherapy. And scientists and researchers use it to keep biological samples fresh or to study materials at super cold temperatures. You can even cool components like superconductors and vacuum pumps. But you know what you shouldn't do with it? Say it with me now. Drink it. Yeah. After the break, we are leaving human bodies for teeny ant pupa, but we're sticking with cocktails. Of sorts. New research shows that terminally ill baby ants send chemical messages to nearby nestmates asking these adult sisters to end their lives. It is wild, and it's next. Stay tuned.
Raise the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an Enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. Start converting your B2B audience today. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started today at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Marvel Television's Wonder Man, an 8-episode series, now streaming on Disney+.
A superhero remake, not exactly what we'd expect from an Oscar-winning director.
Action! Simon Williams, audition for Wonder Man.
I'm gonna need you to sign this, assuming you don't have superpowers.
I'll never work again if anyone found out.
My lips are sealed.
Marvel Television's Wonder Man. All 8 episodes now streaming, only on Disney+.
And we're back. We are so back. And my very human bipedal friends, for a moment, I'd like us to relive the trauma of early 2020. According to research conducted by Howie Baum of the University of Cincinnati, there have been 249 pandemics throughout recorded history from 1200 BC up until that year. So congratulations. You are part of a very exclusive and devastating club. Now, if you are either old enough to remember or did not completely disassociate at the time, you may recall things did not go smoothly. Despite humanity's experience with such brutal circumstances and being the most advanced creatures in the universe, as of the time this episode is being recorded, our collective behavior was, let's just say, complex. On one hand, for the first time in that history, there was the rapid, unprecedented development of vaccines, proving that those in charge with a capital C can provide health care at no cost to everyone. But shrug, why continue with such a practice when shareholders exist? On the other hand, the social media machine pumped out misinformation and disinformation just as quickly, leading to a nearly complete breakdown of trust in scientific institutions. Many people refuse to do the simplest of things proven to help end the spread of airborne diseases, which is embarrassing, especially when you compare us to the response of ants. Yeah, you heard me. Ants. Just like us, they live in densely populated societies that can easily clock in somewhere between 50,000 to 500,000 colony members. And as such, and as so wonderfully explained by Arundathi Nair of NPR, quote, with so many insects packed together in moist and dark places, and all closely related, sharing the same genetic vulnerabilities, infections and diseases can quickly pose an enormous threat to the well-being of an ant colony. To manage these risks, ants have evolved with multiple disease defense strategies that depend on individuals collaborating to function as a whole, similar to how the human body's immune system works. In some species, ants restructure their nests to slow the transmission of lethal funguses, and in others, ant queens eat infected brood to prevent the spread of disease and recover nutrients. Some of these strategies are even described by scientists as altruistic. take the way that sick adult ants will socially distance, wandering away from the colony to avoid infecting their nestmates. End quote. Well, that is impressive. But for some species of ants, even that is not enough. Oh yes, one particular species tells every other fragile species on Earth to hold their aphid honeydew, which just happens to be the substance they primarily feed on. The supercolony-forming European species I'm talking about is the ironically named Lasius neglectus. But let me tell you, they don't neglect or ignore anything. My friends, back in 2018, Hot for Ants nerds from the Institute of Science and Technology Austria, the University of Regensburg and Würzburg, Germany, and the Royal Holloway University of London shocked the world with their study and their discovery. While in the pupa stage, the step in growth between larva and a full-fledged adult, ants are completely helpless, as they are wrapped up in a silk cocoon. In sum, they cannot move. This means if they become infected with, for example, Metarhizium bruneum, nailed it, a fuzzy fungus that bursts forth from the innards of an insect a mere 1 to 3 days after infection, they pose a serious risk to the entire colony. They're basically tiny time bombs. If that fuzzy fungus spreads to the air, they are all screwed. So how would you handle such a situation? If you thought, well, oh God, looks like we're going to have to cull some children, you're right. Lasius neglectus doesn't fuck around. Behavioral ecologist Sylvia Kremer and her colleagues from the Institute of Science and Technology Austria showed that workers of this species, quote, quickly sniff out fungal disease spreading among their brood of baby ants, end quote. And after detecting cuticular hydrocarbons, aka the chemical alarm system the pupa emit via their hard exteriors or cuticles, worker ants engage in what the team has coined destructive disinfection, prying open the cocoons, puncturing the cuticles, and spraying formic acid inside. Quote, this antimicrobial spray kills both the fungal spores and the sick pupa, end quote, from Rohini Subramaniam of Science News. Yeah, my budding business goose, they sacrifice the children. Now, while many of us would clutch our pearls at this discovery, Sylvia Kremer was like, girl, tell me more. The team leaned in even harder because they are hot for ants and they had questions. Is the scent the workers are sniffing out merely produced by the pupa's now compromised immune system, or are these young ants actively putting out a signal to sacrifice themselves? Let's get into it. This nerdy team somehow wasn't nerdy enough to figure this out alone, so they joined forces with Thomas Schmidt, a chemical ecologist from the University of Würzburg. They began their series of experiments by first infecting L. neglectus pupa with Metarhizium bruneum and leaving them isolated. I nailed that again. Now, to nearly everyone's surprise, no emissions were detected. Zero. Are you intrigued? Good. You're not alone. When the team added mature worker ants to the petri dishes, lo and behold, the chemical signal was present. My friends, after literally digging into those infected pupa, the researchers discovered that the pupa's immune genes did activate after contracting an infection, implying that this is an immune response, but, and big but here, the infected pupa only emitted these hydrocarbons in the presence of workers. In other words, they were communicating. Quote, we were fascinated to discover that pupa can sense their surroundings and adjust their chemical signals based on whether workers are present, end quote, said co-author Erica Dawson, a former biologist in Kremer's lab, who is now a grant writer at Sorbonne University in Paris. She said this to Science News. Are you intrigued even more so? Good, because it gets better. In a following experiment, the team transferred the chemical message pumped from sick ants to healthy pupa. And after adding adult workers to the mix, what do you think happened? Yeah, you are exactly right. The workers got the message and destroyed the healthy youngsters, proving that this behavior, that this destructive disinfection, is prompted by these hydrocarbons. And not only is the message loud and clear, it's both sensitive and specific. Think of it as an encrypted text from one phone directly to another, and no one else in between. Here's what I mean. The team also noted that this chemical cocktail didn't diffuse through the colony. It stayed on the body of the infected, waiting to be read by a worker ant making the rounds. This is a brilliant adaptation. This way, all of the terminally sick ant pupa are identified without risking the scent becoming airborne and attaching to healthy ants. And finally, perhaps the piece de resistance was what the team found when handling queen pupa. When infected, these ladies took a stay calm and carry on approach, as they did not, I'll say that again, they did not emit any signal at any time. It turns out, just as with our upper-class overlords, these royals have easy access to healthcare. In this case, queen pupa have stronger immune defenses and can most likely overcome an infection, leaving them to fulfill their destiny of producing future generations. So, worker ants are expendable. I mean, this is all so eerily familiar. Oh, and thank you for listening, rating, subscribing, following, for not drinking liquid nitrogen. Dear God, don't do it. It's easy to say no to this. And then bring up ants. Bring up ants and tell your friends that they text each other. And when they say, oh my God, that's so cute, tell them what the text message says. Oh, and a regretful thanks to the folks over at Airwave Media, the podcast network to which WTI belongs. If you love this show, and you do, you'll love the other podcasts in this family. And please, stay interesting.